Happy Thursday night. I went decided if I should say happy Friday. There are times when I know I'm going to be real pressed for time in the morning, where I won't have time to sit down and make a video. I do it the night before. Then the following morning I just hit upload and go about my day. That was the case this morning. I had an extra early start at the VTH, and it's going to be a little busier in the coming days now. But I found the time this morning to do another Uncle Brian Tech Talk by popular demand of my 13. Yes, 13, count them, but I'm not bragging. 13 loyal, faithful, loving, trusting, devoted Uncle Brian groupies, because let's face it, without them, I'm nothing. You know, I would not be Uncle Brian. I'd be another nobody on here. And due to the overwhelming success of my two previous Uncle Brian Tech Talks, yes, all 13, but I'm not bragging, 13 of my Uncle Brian groupies liked it, and they demanded another one of me, so I did that this morning. And I had to kind of be quick about it. Maybe I'll do a follow-up one day, you know, a part 2. And tomorrow, we're going to be taking off a little before lunch. We're going up to New Hampshire to see our friends again, up in North Lincoln, Franconia Notch, right near Cannon and Loon Mountains. And we're going to be doing some camping and fishing and canoeing at Echo Lake. It's a nice place. We managed to get there at least a couple of times over the summer, over the warm weather months. And not so much this past summer due to I just wasn't in the mood for it due to events in my family. So a lot of things got put off over the course of the summer that I really didn't want to really do much, including on here. So we're going up. It's like 3.5 hours, 4 hours up there. And we should be back sometime Tuesday. And she's talking on the phone with her friends. I'm being nosy. Yeah. She just went out. So I think maybe I have to go out later to get something for us. Maybe I'll make another video after, and that'll be my Happy Friday video. I could just put uploading tomorrow, and then get everything loaded up in the Acadia, sleeping bags, tents, little Coleman gas grill. I don't even own a fishing pole. He has a few. He has the canoe. I bring the tents. I bring some things, he has some things, and it works out great for the 4 of us. So we'll be doing that. You know, I mentioned something yesterday, and it got me thinking. I mentioned, you know, Fast and the Furious. How those of us that know a little something about certain forms of racing, you see movies like that, it takes all the fun out of it. We're not amazed and thrilled. We laugh at it. You know I laughed when Dom's Charger kicked up, rear tires smoking up on a wheel. You know that shit is not possible. Once you've broken traction, you're not going to pull that, and especially that fucking high. It's fucking ridiculous, you know. Plus, I'm not into tuners. Both my son-in-laws are. They're both named Ryan. Both my son-in-laws are Ryan. I think I showed their cars when I was going to one of my daughter's house, and my other daughter, the other Ryan, was visiting. One has that Genesis, and the other one has the Audi TT. Nice little cars. Pretty quick. Both those cars will get real deep in the 13s and a quarter in the highway. Run those things at 150 miles an hour all day without overheating them, you know. They're not exactly cheap either, but they like that shit. That's not my thing. But they're nice cars. I'm not into the tuner import thing. See a lot of them around here. You know, car movies got me thinking. I've seen quite a few. Some I liked. Some I thought were totally fucking ridiculous, like that movie. Another one was Days of Thunder. Really, I mean, if you know anything about NASCAR, you get spun out in the infield like that, yellow flag comes out, you're a lap down. You know, in the movie, only Tom Cruise was able to be right up behind the leader, you know, following lap. That shit don't happen in real life. But it's a movie, you know. You don't see crew chief sitting on a wall eating a fucking Klondike bar or ice cream cone, you know. That shit don't happen. And that was a typical formula movie. In fact, as I recall, when that movie came out, critics bashed it. They called it Top Gun on wheels. They took the same fucking movie from Top Gun. Cocky, arrogant guy meets up, has a rival. They butt heads, meets a girl, falls in love. His rival they once hated, in the end they become buddies, like he became buddies with Iceman. You can be my wingman any day. No, you can be mine. Now they're hugging and smooching and kissing and giving each other a thumb up the fucking ass when they hated each other's guts earlier in the movie. You know, it was the same thing with Days of Thunder. They just took him out of a plane and put him in a fucking car. You know what I mean? Movie's ridiculous. But then again, I'm not a big NASCAR fan. To me, NASCAR stands for NASCAR, non-athletic sport centered around rednecks. Although I admit I liked it when I was a kid. I think I enjoyed it, you know, not so much because, you know, yeah, I like seeing those winged warriors, the Mopars, Daytona Superbirds, you know. A lot of cool cars. And back then, they were a true representation of what you saw on the street, you know. Win on Sunday, sell cars on Monday. These were real stock cars, all stock farm, just modified with, you know, reinforcement, roll cages, and more powerful engines. And big fat tires and stickers all over the fucking things. They were pretty much the same car you could buy in a dealership, you know. Then they evolved. They became cookie cutter cars, all the same fucking body. Put a template on every car, they were the same. Big boxy square ass ends. Front fascias were all the same shape, same design. They just put different stickers to resemble whether it was a fucking Toyota Camry or, you know, Ford Taurus or, you know, Chevy Lumen or whatever. It changed. The cars became cookie cutter. Then cars started dropping out. You know, at one time you had your Olds Cutlass, your Buick Regal, your Pontiac Grand Prix, your Ford Torino, your Mopars, your Chevys. Now we're down to Chevy, Ford, and Toyota. I'm actually surprised Nissan and Honda hasn't got into the game, you know. They all went away. Well, GM dropped the Pontiac and Oldsmobile line. Mopar got out of it. No, Buick got out of it. What was left, you know? You know, it's kind of funny. A lot of people think Mopar and, you know, Richard Petty the King. But, you know, he spent more time, when you look at his whole career, he spent more time behind the wheel of other manufacturers than a Mopar. But he's known as Mopar 43. They'll always show him with a blue Roadrunner or that blue Superbird. But he spent more years behind the wheel of a Chevy Monte Carlo, Pontiac Grand Prix, Olds Cutlass, Ford Torino, another one too, Oldsmobile, Buick Regal, Pontiac Grand Prix, Chevy Monte Carlo, Olds Cutlass. He spent more time behind every other manufacturer wheel than behind a Mopar. Be it, say Richard Petty, Mopar. You know, I was never big on Mopar. These days, the cars became unrecognizable. They're all the same. You know, I think I lost a lot of interest in that. And then over the years, I didn't, you know. In these cars, I guess you could really identify with an NASCAR car back then. They were pretty much what you saw in the street where you could buy. They just had fat tires, a big engine, and stickers all over them. But it was the same car, bumper to bumper. And the same thing could be said back in the day with Pro Stock, when that category came into the NHRA in, I believe, 1970. And if I'm not mistaken, it was Bill Jenkins who played a big role in getting that category into NHRA, you know, one step above Super Stock, and it caught on. And those cars are very easy to replicate. You know, Pro Stockers today, you know, they don't look like what you can buy. You know, they're no longer stock trim cars in appearance. Back then they were. And it was easy to go buy a Cuda, a Duster, a Nova, a Camaro, and you could make it look like a Pro Stocker. Just put a snorkel hood scoop on it. Put some Carrera SS's, make sure you got those Lakewood traction action, the old slapper bars on it, and You had a car that looked like a Pro Stock. They were easy to replicate. Not so much these days. But she's coming back in now. She's going up and down the stairs. Some 2 bedrooms upstairs. And a half bath up there. I'm being nosy. The fuck is she doing now? I hear her walking around. Oh well. Probably getting her shit ready for tomorrow too. Car movies. I've seen several. Some I liked. Some I thought were totally ridiculous, like Days of Thunder, Fast and Furious. And then there were some that they got a little bit better. I remember Hot Like a Wheel, Bonnie Bedelia, Shirley Madani story, based on a true story. Well, when they say based on a true story, there's very little true story in the actual movie. You know, it's always been that way. It's Hollywood, you know, what do you expect? Even now, The Blind Side, Sandra Bullock, they're finding out, there wasn't a whole lot of truth in that fucking movie, you know what I mean? A lot of what they said happened didn't really actually happen. And what really did happen, maybe not, you know, would have gone over so well with the public, so we're going to leave that shit out of the movie. It's not going to make them look very good, you know? It's to be expected, it's Hollywood. And, you know, even Hot Like a Wheel, Shirley, very successful career. The movie portrayed her to be this nice girl that was being held back by her husband, you know? He was a drunken asshole. As it turns out, people that have known her, you know, due to a family that I've known since I was 7 years old, going back a few generations, the first, the second, and now Barbie the third. You know, all those guys been around the track in that era, and they raced fuel cars back then. And I had heard stories about her. She was not a very nice lady. She was the real bitch. They portrayed her as a poor little thing that was under the thumb of her husband that was a drunken idiot. I do remember that one scene in the movie I thought was funny. He's there drunk. She pulls in, her car's all fucking trash. Hey, Shirley. Hey, look, a funny car. Ain't that funny? You know, I'll never forget that scene. You know. But she, you know, she cheated on her husband with Connie Carter to further her career. Connie got her that good car. She ended up cheating on Connie with Ron Tolboy. I think he became her crew chief, if I'm not mistaken. I think somebody told me one time, a few years back, I don't know about now, but I know as far as like maybe 10 years ago, they said Ron Tolboy was still around. He was crew chief in another fuel car in NHRA, Ron Tolboy. If I'm wrong, correct me on the name, but I think it was Ron Tolboy. And how she got to know him was through Connie Carter. She used people, you know what I mean? They portrayed her as a real good lady that was being held down by men and whatnot, but they portrayed her husband as a drunken asshole, but she was the real bitch, you know, in the reality of things. And there have been other movies. There have been actors that had pretty successful racing careers. Paul Newman, for one. Who's that other guy? Oh, fuck. I can't think. You know what I'm talking about. He was in The Great Escape on a motorcycle jumping over that fence. He died. He went to Mexico for some alternative cancer treatment. Ended up fucking killing him, not helping him. Come on, what's his name? God damn it. This is really bugging the fuck out of me. Gotta love Google. Steve McQueen. I'd even have to look it up. Steve McQueen. He was involved in some racing. Paul Newman had some success, like IMSA, 24 Hours, Rolex, all that shit. He had some success in racing, you know. Steve McQueen. There was a movie, Le Mans, about, you know, Le Mans drivers. And correct me if I'm wrong, I think that was Paul Newman. I think I saw that once. Pretty decent. There have been others. My all-time favorite movie was one that at the time, I didn't catch it when it came out. I saw it a few years later. I think it came out in 1971, if I'm not mistaken. And I was only 9 years old. I caught it later on in my teens, you know. I went on, hey, I heard about it. And Jimmy over in Martha's Vineyard, James Taylor was in it with Dennis Wilson and the Beach Boys. They didn't even have names in the movie. It was driver and mechanic. You didn't even know what the fuck their names were. And it was a real low-budget movie. No real script, no real plot. No reason why it began, but I thought the ending was so fucking cool. And basically, they just travel around match racing. Make money, travel around, match race, make money, move on, move on, move on. At one point, they pick up a girl, you know, for a little while. Warren Oates was in it. He had that 70 GTO Judge. And he had a real short stint in the movie. He wasn't in it for a long period of time. And it was pretty much just racing. Just racing. And I'll never forget the ending, where all the sound cuts out. Total dead silence. And what you see is the back of James Taylor's head, his shoulder, his hand on the shifter, looking out over the front. That shoebox hood scoop opened up in the back with that tunnel ram and Holly sticking up. And he just launches it, and you see that front end lift, and it goes. And every time he grabs a shift, that front end comes up. And he runs it through the gears, and then it goes into like a slow motion. You see the car shaking, and then it ends. Besides being the coolest ending to a car movie I've ever seen, in my opinion, for what it's worth, I think that's the best car movie ever made. One I could identify with. I saw reality in it. I didn't see CGI and outrageous bullshit with cars doing things that are not possible. Fucking Moth. And I'm sure there are others. Another laughable one I mentioned, that IndyCar movie with Stallone and Kit Pardue. You know, IndyCars don't have onboard starters. You can jump in and turn the key and fire them up and drive them around the streets of Vegas. You know, now somebody not knowing anything about IndyCars would, oh yeah, they do that. No. You got to plug in an electric starter, and on those, it's right in the back of the engine, right directly to the crankshaft. The way on a fuel car, they plug in an electric starter to the blower to turn it. And that's how you fire these things up. So I think sometimes the less you know about things, the more you can enjoy a movie. The more you know about things, the less enjoyable the movie is. But every now and then a movie comes around. And quite frankly, I haven't seen any ones that I can really latch on to. I was able to do that to some degree with Hot Like a Wheel. But I've never seen a movie to this day that I could really identify with and I could see all the full reality in it, as I did with Two-Lane Blacktop. Now, I gotta go out later, get a little something for us. And maybe I'll use that. I'll do it tonight, and tomorrow, before we load up and head out, I'll just put it uploading, and then we're gone for a few days. You won't have to put up with me until Tuesday afternoon. Even then, don't count on it. Coming back, you know, it's only a 4-hour ride, but still, and then put everything away. And might not feel like doing anything Tuesday night, so I may not even see you till Wednesday. Hey, pickle sniffers, you got an extra bonus day away from Uncle Brian. How's that?